Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session on Grassroots to Global Impact, examining the role that local initiatives play in global change. My name is Tamari Zlozenidze, and I'm a program officer with SITE, where I coordinate the Free Enterprise and Democracy Network and oversee our Small Grants program, which is why I'm excited to have the opportunity to sit down with one of our distinguished FEDN members and current grantees, Grace and Sal. We have a lot to gain from her experiences with this project and beyond. Grace is a co-founder and CEO of Newsline Media based in Nairobi, Kenya. She is a communications professional with 2 decades of experience in development communication and digital media. She is also a certified trainer and mentor in ethical entrepreneurship. Grace is passionate about using media techniques and technologies to grow ethical enterprises in Africa. And as a current FEDN grantee, she has been working with youth agripreneurs in Elgeyo Marakwet County to grow clean agribusiness enterprises and enhance youth participation in democratic processes. Welcome, Grace. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tamari. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items for our audience. Please note that this session is being recorded, so it will be available to view later. If you're previewing the session on the events lobby, we highly encourage you to go and click the join session button to come into the Zoom room where you can use the Q&A feature to ask questions and interact with us live. Now, why don't we go ahead and get started? Grace, can you introduce the project and why you chose to take this on?
Right, thank you very much, Tamari. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share what we have learned from doing a project with the youth in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Now, just to take us here, I want to bring everybody to Elgeyo Marakwet County, which is where I'm joining the webinar from this evening from my end. And Elgeyo Marakwet is a county that is known world over for sports tourism. The county has actually been honored as a World Athletics Training Center. That's how important it is. And it's the home to some of the most elite athletes you will know about, like the London Marathon winner 2023, Mr. Kelvin Kiptum comes from here. And, you know, that makes Elgeyo Marakwet an interesting place. But it's also interesting because this county has got 3 ecological zones, and that ecological zone allows agriculture to happen all year round. And it also allows the county to be able to plant a wide variety of crops. So anything you can think about, you can find it in Elgeyo Marakwet. Now, because of this, there are very many opportunities in agribusiness in this county. And the people that are really involved in agribusiness, of course, the generation has been changing, and the youth are now increasingly taking up farming as a serious business. The other interesting thing about Elgeyo Marakwet is that it's a relatively young county. According to the National Bureau of Statistics census report that was conducted in 2019, the median age of Elgeyo Marakwet is 19 years, which is, you know, against our national median of 22 years. So relatively young, and the county has a population of 57% youth. So these are people aged between 18 to 35 years old. And that's one of the reasons that attracted us to undertake our research here. But the most important reason is because Elgeyo Marakwet is one of the 12 subnational governments globally to join Open Government Partnership, OGP, and 3 among Africa. There are only other 3 subnational governments in Africa that are part of Open Government Partnership. Now, I'll be talking in detail about what Open Government Partnership is, but just to talk about it so that we give context to this conversation, Open Government Partnership is a platform where governments join in and commit to accountability. They commit to transparency, they commit to budget transparency, budget openness, and involving the citizen in democratic participations. And therefore, for us, it was interesting to note that in 2022, Elgeyo Marakwet, being, you know, a member of OGP, started to backslide in terms of democracy. Initially, between 2018 and 2020, the county was a model county for, open government. They were able to allow access to information to the citizens very easily on websites and all that. The county was able to allow citizen engagement. In fact, other counties used to come to Elgeyo Marakwet to learn how to participate, to conduct government citizen participation rather. And so we noted that beginning 2022, the county started to backslide in terms of democracy, in terms of openness. And this, meant that the largest population of the county is being affected, and that is the youth. There are 57% of them. They are being left out in democratic processes. And that's why we started this project. We took up this project where we are training the youth on how to participate in democratic spaces. But not just that, but to train them after they have been empowered. They've been given skills to help them be able to sort out their basic needs so that now they can move to democracy. Because the truth of the matter is, nobody is going to participate in, for example, the budget making process when they have not had food. So you must take care of basic needs first, which are taken care of through entrepreneurship. And then now we come in and take, they participate in democracy. So we combined this just so that we're able to have a sustainable project working on moving forward. Now, how did we do that? We did that through collaboration of two organizations, which is Rest Hub, which is a local CSO organization that is based in Elgeyo Marakwet, and Newsline Media. And we're a media company that is based out in Nairobi, but we work all over Africa. And the idea is for us to combine both our strengths, to collaborate. Rest Hub is very good with democracy and governance work. Newsline helps to tell the story, the narrative of democracy, so that where there are gaps, then they can be seen. And where there's some good work that has happened, then we congratulate people about that. So between Rest Hub and Newsline, we formed an organization, youth-led and youth-owned, which we call the Country Youth Agribusiness Assembly. And it's a platform for youth in Elgeyo Marakwet to be able to participate in democratic spaces and be able to learn skills on entrepreneurship and also seek for opportunities, so that whatever they learn in entrepreneurship, they are able to keep that going. But at the same time, they're able to also keep democracy going at the same time.
That's great. Thank you. Can you share a little bit about the impact it has had locally and any success stories that you can share with us?
Yes, of course. So it's been a journey from last year, October 2022. We started by just, first of all, helping the youth realize that agribusiness is business. So here's what was happening because of the agriculture work that goes on in Elgeyo Marakwet. The youth did not really think about it like they were in business, yet they, of course, expected to make money out of it, which was quite interesting. And the first thing was for us to change their mindset and help them realize that agribusiness is actually agriculture. And once they understood that, they moved to the second step, which was, first of all, formalizing their businesses. And in Kenya, and I believe in other countries, when you formalize your business, you register it with the government, it means that now you become an entity that that can work and that can access opportunities with other entities, registered entities. And this was our first success, seeing the youth formalizing their enterprises. And when they formalized their enterprises, they were able to access new markets. They were able to access opportunities, financing opportunities, because in Kenya, we have a 30% quota that is set aside for the youth to access in government projects, especially, and also in the big corporates. But for you to access these 30% tender opportunities, you must be registered. So that formalization helped. It was like an instant instant impact of our project. And today we have youth that are now supplying the county government of Elgeyo Marakwet. We have others that are supplying the national government. And we even have other youth that are now supplying schools, hospitals, and hotels within Elgeyo Marakwet County. The other success that we saw very quickly was that the youth were able to take up, were able to find ways to reduce their costs by taking up organic farming. Now, like I said, Elgeyo Marakwet is very rich in terms of agriculture. The county is very rich in that, and they are endowed with good conditions. So when the youth picked up organic farming, they were able to increase their revenues because they were able to sell their prices at premium, their products at premium prices. And because of that, we now have youth that have done so well that they've even, changed their lifestyle by taking their children to private schools, for example. And for us, that is important. The fact that their incomes have actually improved and have become better. The other thing that is another success that we have had is the fact that now that the youth are running enterprises and they're running formalized enterprises, they are complying with government regulations because that's what ethical entrepreneurship is all about. And they have proper standards and procedures. They are now engaging government very confidently. And we saw this happen in the recent public participation events. The most exciting one was during the finance bill that happened sometimes in July. And we had the youth send out a memo to the county government of Elgeyo Marakwet and say, we want you to reduce market rates. We'd like you to pave roads in the market because this is where we are conducting our business. And they were able to submit that memo to the county government. And we have seen the county government engaging towards taking up those proposals. So those are some of the things that we've seen, successes we've seen with the project. And it's exciting to finally see the youth in Elgeyo Marakwet being able to participate in democratic spaces, engage duty bearers without any fear and confidently, and at the same time, be able to formalize enterprises and make money for themselves.
Great. It's clear that we have seen a lot of changes and benefits locally based off of your project, right? Decreasing the barriers to entry with agribusiness. But what are your theories of change in making this more global and expanding the impact beyond the county?
Right. So when we came into this project, or when we started this project, we realized that there was a skills gap. The youth did not really know how to conduct business and undertake enterprise, entrepreneurship. At the same time, we also realized very quickly that the youth were not engaging with government at all. And therefore, any issues they had, any concerns they had, of course, were not being taken up. And that was obviously infringing into their democratic space. And so we took the youth, train them on how to engage with government, help them to give them the tools and the skills so that they are able to demand for quality service delivery from government. And we've been able to see that. Again, we also took the youth that did not realize were actually in business when they were conducting agricultural businesses and help them to formalize their business, keep records. We help them to start complying with certain regulations so that they can access markets. And out of that, we've been able to see youth that are now running clean enterprises, accessing more accountability, accessing more opportunities, even financial opportunities, which is quite commendable, if I can say that. And we're beginning to see the economic growth, definitely. And yes, whatever it is that we have done here is something that can be replicated in other places. It can be replicated because we can take up the opportunities, or rather the lessons that we've learned here, the lessons of creating a platform for the youth, like the CYAA, the Country Youth Agribusiness Platform, and help the youth to have a voice of their own. And then by doing that, we help them, to improve themselves and also improve democratic governance within their spaces.
I know that you mentioned already the OGP. Can you talk a little bit more about your involvement in that? That is, a great example of scaling to international programs already. If you can share a little bit more about that.
All right. That's very interesting because when OGP started initially, they were only taking up, national member countries, so to speak. So in 2016, they accommodated subnational members, which is like, I would say in like a country like Nigeria, that would be like the federal states. In Kenya, we call them counties. And when Elgeyo Marakwet joined in, the county committed, has already come up with 2 action plans. And part of, just an overview of an action plan is what you commit to do so that you can enhance an open government, access to information, you can enhance democracy, you can enhance civic engagement and such kinds of things. So the commitments they made, of course, were to increase budget transparency, increase public participation, open procurement, and include marginalized groups like the youth, for example. So that went on very well between 2016 and 2020. That happened very well. 2 action plans were done. But in 2020, of course, COVID happened and a lot of things stopped. And then in 2022, very fast, we had a change of government. Our new governor is yet to take that, continue, but the discussions are already ongoing for the 3rd action plan that now the County Youth Agribusiness Assembly is participating in. And the way development of action plans work in OGP is that there is usually a multi-sector stakeholder forum. And that multi-sector stakeholder forum is usually county government together with the CSOs. And they have 50-50 membership. So if county government has 8 members, the CSOs also have 8 members. And then there's the co-chair of the forum, which is usually the governor and a leader of the CSOs. Now, CYAA, the Country Youth Agribusiness Assembly, has joined a consortium in Elgeyo Marakwet County. And by sitting in that consortium, we are able to bring up the concerns and the interests of youth in the 3rd action plan. That is how we are doing this, because we are collaborating with them. And so CYA right now is participating in discussions that are geared towards co-creation of this 3rd action plan. And we are hoping that in the next few weeks, we shall have the first meeting of the multi-sector stakeholder forum, so that we can contribute our voice to the action plan and make sure that our concerns as the youth are taken up.
Right. I wanted to ask, with this experience with the CYAA and the Open Government Partnership, I know we talked about Elgeyo Marakwet really being a pioneer within this program, but being a county that's now going through democratic backsliding, what impact do you think these grassroots level organizations can have in fighting this wave?
Right, excellent question. So grassroots organizations have, of course, they can have great impact by making sure that, first of all, they bring out the real issues that are there, because they're the ones that are affected. Say, for example, the youth in agribusiness. We have there are certain things that usually affect the youth in agribusiness, and grassroots organizations are the ones that can bring out those issues and make sure that these issues are addressed in the action plan. Now, remember, in as much as the OGP is a global platform, the impact is felt locally. So whatever is in the action plan is something that has got to be, for us. So that's one way of making sure that we affect what is happening. The other way is to get the grassroots organizations participating in other global concerns like the SDGs. For instance, in CYAA, we are very keen to make sure that we find the balance between, the SDGs and what is affecting us. We focus a lot on SDG 2, about zero hunger in the world, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, and SDG 13, climate action, and SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. So whatever it is that you're doing at the grassroots, we must make sure that we are contributing it to the global agenda. And we do that by just looking at what affects us and picking it and building on it, so that at the end of the day, we're able to not just contribute to a global conversation, but also get positive impact for ourselves. And this can be achieved greatly by, for instance, what FEDN is doing. Not, FEDN doesn't have to come to the ground and do everything. They give grants to people like us who are on the ground, and we do the work. And when, for instance, the youth in Elgeyo Marakwet are able to clearly articulate their problems or their concerns to the county government of Elgeyo Marakwet about infrastructure, it will build up eventually to the global agribusiness value chain, if we have proper infrastructure that leads us there. So that's, I think, how we can do this.
Great. Thinking about that, with these experiences, as you mentioned, as a network, we have a really global goal to create global change. But in your opinion, or with your experiences, how would you recommend that organizations are able to find the balance between local initiatives and these larger global scale projects?
Right. So based on our experiences and everything, because like you said, projects are done to impact local communities. And from where I sit, I think that one of the ways that we can find the balance between the local initiatives and global campaigns is by making sure that we are collaborating. We should not do anything by ourselves. At the global level, when we have an agenda, for example, zero hunger, for instance, because we are talking about agriculture, we must find a way that we can have local solutions to global hunger. So at the global perspective, we'll be talking about, the big issues of hunger. But at the local solutions, then we'll be thinking about how then can the local communities avoid this problem, or how can we achieve this objective that we have. For instance, when we are working with the youth here, one of the things that we have found to be an issue is the issue of decent work. And that's why the SDG 16 became important for us, the SDG 8 rather became important for us. And from a local perspective, we ask ourselves, how can we help the youth to have decent work and economic growth? And it's just by finding the resources that they have themselves and helping them to operationalize the resources, or sometimes to find a way to commercialize them. For instance, in Elgeyo Marakwet, they have excellent climate here, but how can you use the climate to sort out the issue of decent work and economic growth? So the balance is found by looking at the local solutions that are there, the global issues, and then finding how we can merge this so that it works perfectly for everybody.
Great, thank you. I do want to remind everyone that we are taking questions as we kind of get towards the last 15 minutes of this session. Please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. But Grace, as a media and communications professional, today we're talking all about engagement and how we can communicate. So how do you go about that when you think about scaling projects and communicating that on a larger scale?
Right. So the media has a great role in making sure that we tell the right stories. Let's begin from there, because that's the most important thing. In this conference, we are talking about democratic narratives. We are talking about backsliding of democracy. And the question is, what role does the media play in this? The media has the role, first of all, to point out when something goes wrong, but also to praise when something goes right. And of course, we find that in Africa, it's a delicate balance, especially because we do tend to tell some very negative stories about ourselves. But the media has the role to tell the stories of change, positive change, but most importantly, to tell the stories of how democracy is impacting and can impact the community. Now, I'll give you an example. When all the work that we have done here in CYAA, we've been able to document stories from the youth. And it's the youth just, telling us or telling the story of how it is that they've been able to manage the trainings that they've got. And out of this documentation work that we have done and the stories that we have shared in the social media and also amongst the networks that we are in, what we have found is that we have more and more youth who are willing to participate in democratic spaces. Because now, for example, when we do a memorandum, we get the memorandum signed by more than 100 entrepreneurs who are not necessarily part of the country youth agribusiness. Right. And it's all done because of the media work that we do, because everybody says, you know what, yes, if there is a way I can add my voice to this, I want to participate in it. I want to be part of it. So the issue of the role of the media, it's very important. We are the ones in media. I say we because I am one of the media people. We are the ones that determine which direction democracy goes, because we have the masses and we have the masses in terms of people, and we have the masses in terms of network. So what we say and what we do and how we say it impacts greatly on democracy. So the more positive stories we bring out about democracy and the impact of positive democracy and the impact of people participating, if we are able to tell that story positively, then we are definitely going to begin to see a decline in the backsliding that we are seeing happening right now.
Right. Great. I also wanted to ask a little bit about sustainability, which I think fits well when we're talking about media, right? How do we keep these projects sustainable? And also, being in a world where we have the 24-hour news cycle or things like that, and your attention often jumps, how do you maintain the momentum of a project, and how do you kind of keep that going long term? Even, this small grant, for example, that you're on, it was 6 months. We extended it another 6 months to go into phase 2. But after that concludes, what's the sustainability there?
All right, that's an excellent question, Tamari, because one of the bad things that happen in projects, and this happens all over, is that we come up with excellent ideas and then we let them go just when they are peaking. And the communities that we're working with eventually do not benefit from this. So, and that was one of the concerns that we had when we were setting up the Country Youth Agribusiness Assembly. And one of the ways that we have put in place to make sure that we remain sustainable, number one is to have partnerships and collaborations. We do not conduct this project in isolation. We look for partners who are interested or can help the youth amplify their voice and join those associations. Sometimes we bring in their people or they bring in their people to our meetings so that we can be able to continue with the conversation, and we get more mass, we get better feedback, and we also get better mileage when we do that. So not working in isolation is the first thing. The other thing is to look for local solutions. Now, we have found this to be very, very important because, for example, when you're training the youth on, like we were training the youth on ethical entrepreneurship, one of the first things they told us is that, you're telling us to be entrepreneurs. Where are we going to get capital for this? And as we started to talk to them, they eventually told us, you know what, we've just realized we don't even need capital. We have the money. The only thing we need to do is change the way we are doing this and that. Like, for example, instead of focusing on a lot of inputs, let's reduce our inputs and do this work organically, because we are able to do agriculture organically. We reduce our cost, we increase our incomes. And within a short time, they quickly told us, we have our own, now we are able to generate our own capital. Now they are no longer telling us to help them get financial help. They're telling us, now tell us how we do ethical marketing. You've already told us to formalize in this, now move us to the next step, which is great. And so that's the next thing, the other thing, local solutions, because that is what is sustainable. And then finally, not really, this is not like the final one, but I like to take three. The third one is about training and mentorship. Part of the work that we're doing is usually technical, if I can say that, like budget analysis is technical. Writing a memo is a technical activity. It cannot just be done by everybody. You've got to learn the lingo of government. But what we've done is to train the youth so that they themselves can develop this government communication without us. And it's exciting because they develop it, they own it, and they take it and go to look for signatures, because memos are most powerful when they are accompanied by signatures by the real people who are affected. So they go and look for the signatures by themselves. And now we guide them. Our work to this particular office, make sure this office is rubber stamped and everything. So training and mentorship is a way of sustainability.
Wonderful, thank you. We do have a few questions from the audience. This first one is from one of our other FEDN members, Barun. And he is asking, what kind of challenges have these local entrepreneurs faced in their interaction with the local government? Is there anything you can share to illustrate the democratic backsliding in the context of these smaller entrepreneurs?
Right, just take the question again, please.
Yes. What kind of challenges have these local entrepreneurs faced when they're interacting with the local government?
Okay, so the challenges these entrepreneurs have experienced, oh yes, many, but let's take three. We said it's the rule of three today. So one is just the fact that they have not been able to get the ear of the county government. The county government does not listen to them because they're youth. And we all know, I don't know whether this happens all over the world, but at least in not seen as a very stable community, if I can say that. So they are not taken seriously a lot of times. So the fact that they were not being taken serious was the first challenge they had. Secondly, the other challenge they had is that they did not speak government. Apparently, there is a language called government lingo, especially when you're talking about engaging in government, in budgets and all that. They did not know how to do that. And we had to teach them to speak government, which was interesting. And then thirdly, was just the fact that the youth in Elgeyo Marakwet were not able to, they did not know where to go. There's just the issue of not knowing where to go. And that was a big challenge, because if you have a concern in agriculture and you go to the Ministry of Health, it's not sorted out. And so those are the things that we did. And very early in the project, in the first phase, we brought the youth together with county government officials, and they were able to know where to go. So that's how we sorted out that issue. And immediately after that, we saw the youth going to the local government and saying, you told us that we can access registration from this office. Now we have come. So that's one of the things, and that's how we sorted out. So anything to illustrate the democratic backsliding? Yes, the fact that the youth are really suffering in terms of market levies. That is one of the things that was and is still a big issue, because we are still engaging with government to make sure that they reduce the market levies to reasonable rates. At the moment, the youth are being charged as much as someone who owns a shop. Now, this is a challenge because youth entrepreneurs usually don't have very heavy capital, a lot of capital. So you can imagine they are fighting to be competitive with, adults who are over 35 years and have a lot of capital. So that's an example of backsliding.
This is an interesting follow-up question actually to that answer. What is the percentage of market levy?
I think I had finished answering that question.
Oh, so sorry. Please continue.
Sorry, please repeat that again.
Were you finished with your last answer for that?
Yes,
Yes, that's
yes,
what I
have.
Okay.
Yes.
So just to follow up to that one, what's the percentage of market levy the government was able to charge for the local entrepreneurs?
All right. So initially, the local levies were being charged at the rate of $30. That is what was documented. Like, that's what the entrepreneurs knew. But then, when it came to the actual collection, and this is why we must participate in democratic processes, they were being charged $62. So that became confusing. And that's why this conversation with the county government is going on, because sometimes what is written in the finance bill is not exactly what is charged at the end of the day. And so the engagement must go on. Now, the reason this is unfair is because the levies, the market levies we're talking about, are charged to very small businesses, vendors, market vendors, really. And they don't even have a permanent shop or a permanent shelter. Yet someone with like a building in a shop, sometimes like a grocery store, they pay just about the same amount. And that's why it becomes unfair. And that's why we are negotiating with government to say, you know what, stop being unfair to us just because we are small.
Great, thank you very much. We're coming up on our last 2 minutes. So Grace, I wanted to give you the opportunity to share anything that I may have missed asking you about or any final concluding thoughts.
All right, let me just say that what we have learned in Elgeyo Marakwet is not something that stays here. It's something that can be done anywhere in the world. And all you need to do is really, we are happy to share our lessons from this end. We are happy to have people join in and, come and visit us and see how we've done this and how we've been able to achieve some of the successes we have. But what I'd like to encourage everybody in this forum today is to develop a culture of seeking information held by government. Because if you do not develop the culture, then government does not feel the pressure to provide that information in the first place. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. The second thing, I'd like to encourage organizations that are here to develop platforms to enhance youth participation in all avenues of life. Now, what happens with the youth is that they are considered a fluid community, if I can say that. But the truth of the matter is that the youth have concerns, and some of their concerns are actually the solutions to the problems that we have. So if we can develop platforms, it doesn't have to be an organization like the Country Youth Agribusiness Assembly, just mainstreaming the youth activities in your programs, that would do very well. And then the other thing is to make sure that we encourage the youth to be self-sustainable. There is only one way that has been proven in the world to be self-sustaining, and that is to be an entrepreneur. So we must encourage entrepreneurship. It's sustainable. And the entrepreneurship must be ethical. It must be clean business, because for every clean business that is undertaken in that small space, it builds to the bigger global conversation about ethics and sustainability. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for joining us today. We look forward to sharing a blog coming soon about more of your work and a bit more about this project. In the meantime, thank you to our audience. Up next is our final panel of the day on narratives and messaging, and I hope to see you all there soon.